Alrighty, how we doing? Back for another day. I am fucking exhausted. It's all caught up to me. Everything's caught up to me. Anyway, let's start with the formalities. It is Monday, the 9th of January, 2023. It is 8:13 a.m. I don't think I said the time yesterday. I started the podcast yesterday at like 11:40 something. I was doing it in a hot car. This is a much better setting. I'm back home now in my little, I want to call it an office, but it's mostly just a junk room with a desk. So you can do work in here, but it's also very distracting. And yeah, the back of a hot car. I understand why fucking they don't tell you to put babies in there. I was in there for like 10 minutes. I started sweating buckets. It was crazy. I was going to crack a window, but it would have made some noise. Like there would have been noise. I'm pretty sure my partner's dad, Maddie's dad, was doing the lawns and shit. So I just didn't want to run any risks of like having some residual background noise because I want it to be all about me. Oh shit. Anyway, I'm so fucking tired. I've been on since the 31st of December. I've worked 7 days in a row. I did the 31st, the Saturday, through till the following Friday. It was that Saturday, Sunday, Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday. Yeah, so it is 7 days. And then I was writing my MC speech, my Master of Ceremonies speech, and writing down jokes and looking things up until 2 a.m. On the morning of the wedding. And I went to bed. And I woke up at 6:30 because I had to make sure I got up and got everything cleaned up. So only 4.5 hours sleep I was running on. I cleaned the whole house because, we choose to live in squalor when we are busy in our lives. We just decide to fucking neglect our homes. I'm sure that's a common occurrence in most households. And then I drove 2.5-3 hours back to Sale, Victoria, from my home here in Reservoir, Melbourne, to attend a wedding, a beautiful wedding. I've spoken about it 2 times now, or 3 times now, I don't know. It doesn't happen often, and it's not going to happen every day. So I figured, I was saying that to my wife before, I don't know what to talk about on this fucking today. She's like, it's about your life, talk about the wedding, talk about how much fun you had, talk about it. You're not going to be talking about it in June. You'll be talking about whatever the fuck's happening and that's relevant. So it makes sense that the first 9 podcasts I do, 3 of which have such a big impact on this wedding has such a big impact on. Anyway, I had a lot of fun, and I've actually taken it quite seriously at looking at doing MC gigs for real, for a living. I think it would be interesting if I could make that work and do it for a living, but I'm going to be looking into becoming a wedding celebrant. I think that there's I was speaking with the photographer, and he was saying that there's a huge market that gets missed when people hire a celebrant. They have to then also hire an MC, or they have to look for an MC. Usually they get family or whatever. And he said that the job that I did was pretty good for someone who's not professional, someone who's never done it before, someone who got asked sort of last minute. So he said there's a huge market to fill if you become a celebrant, to have the celebrant and MC combo where you've already built the rapport with the families and the couples. Why not take it all the way into the night and utilize your services, like they've clearly picked you for a reason. You get, you're either picked as a celebrant because the couple just wants to get fucking married, like what happened with us. We didn't really care too much. I mean, there wasn't as much of a screening process. We sort of just looked at photos and looked at vibes, and we were like, this guy's too flashy, this guy's too formal, this lady looks like she's going to do too much. Let's go with this lady. She looks like she's just ready to get it done, or at least willing to listen to us and what we want. And I think that's what I would want to do. I want to put on the best wedding for them, for the couple. I want to celebrate them, and that's what I did with this most recent MC gig. It's about me a little bit because I've got the microphone and the attention's on me, but I use that time to guide the thought and guide the crowd's thought to be more about the couple and about today, or the day, I mean, and about the families that are joining together and making sure I'm involving and including the families in the discussions and so on and so forth. But yeah, anyway, it's a lot of fun. I figured that I would want to just talk about that. And then in my search for finding things to talk about, I went back to my thoughts and reflections notes, and I'm not going to read everything that I've bloody written. Maybe eventually I will. I don't agree with some of it. It's just sort of, some of it's just, just general ranting is what I'm going to call it. Like, I get in and I see something, like if I'm on the train on the way to work and I see a homeless person. There was one day actually I've actually written it in here. I don't want to read all about it, but we were sitting there and this lady gets on the train, and I was listening to Highly Suspect. It's a really good band. I couldn't even tell you the music there, what type it is. Rock, fucking metal, whatever, I don't know. Sorry, sip of my coffee. And I commented in this note on how I, was using my brand new iPhone. It was new to me, actually. I think the iPhone 12 was out and I had the 11 Pro Max. And, I take using the device for granted, just to blindly consume content on social media or whatever. And I fill the silence with music. And then I looked up at one point, and I wasn't conscious of this until I looked at this lady, and she, let me just read. She got on to the train in what looked like a rush, but soon became clear it was the same business one would find themselves in under the influence of drugs. Time speeds up in the individual, but reality is unchanged for the rest of us. Her jeans are tattered and her nose is bright red, peeking out over the top of her mask, because at the time we were wearing masks, obviously. This lady with unkept hair and ripped, dirty jeans is unlikely to have a phone. To her, it would be a luxury. And then I got thinking about how I'm sitting there using this phone, taking it for granted. Honestly, it's fucking damaging my life in some way, right? Depleting my dopamine levels, and I'm sitting there with a shorter attention span because of it. And this lady is, I guess using drugs to cope. You don't think like, oh, she's smacked out, she doesn't care. I felt like a real sadness. There was a sense of despair. She rushed onto the train like she needed to get somewhere, but the train's going at the same pace. Like, it's not moving faster for her. Yeah, and then I wrote, let me just read it before I read it out. Yeah, here we go. So I often forget the very fortunate position I am in. My biggest complaints are about the ethics of other people inside a work environment and potential ideologies of those who I don't even interact with. Petty squabbles and careless ignorance to the immediate injustices of today. We spend all of our time consuming. I could sit here on this exact device and lose half my day by watching videos and reading posts, of which 95% will be lost to the void. There's no connection between my eyes and my memory when I switch off and just consume. And I don't believe this is a personal flaw. I look down, and then I comment here, I look down the train and I see, there's got to be 80 seats in this one carriage, and she's only occupying one. But I can't stop thinking about her and about this sadness. I just felt like almost guilty. It's weird. Like, I know that she's not there because of me, and I know that I can't do anything to stop her from being in the position she's in. But I look at down the thing on, there's so many other people. I'm the only one who notices her. Everyone else is minding their own business, which is what you'd like to think. But every other person had a phone in their hands. Sometimes people are reading, sometimes people are just sitting there watching the train go by, and every single other person was using their phone. And I don't know why I wrote this last bit, because I don't think it has much to do with it. I wrote, we've moved away from being who we are to being who we want them to think we are, and right through to being who we think that they think we are. I don't know if that makes any sense. When faced with adversity, who will you be? How do you show up energetically for yourself every day? If you're not showing up, who is? Now, I just had a thought while I was reading that out, actually. Maybe like that lady uses drugs to cope with her circumstances. Maybe it's fair to say that everyone else on the train that day that was using their phones shouldn't be judged because they're also doing that to cope. At the time I was writing that, we're in the middle of a pandemic. We'd just come out of lockdowns. Melbourne had been affected by lockdowns more than any other city. And so, maybe using the phones was a way to catch up on news. Maybe it was a way to connect with family. Or maybe it was a way to distract yourself from the reality of sitting there on a train, distancing from people, wearing masks. Perhaps I was too quick to judge. I mean, we all are, right? You see a homeless person come up and ask you for change, and sometimes your first reaction, depending on their appearance, is, "Oh, get away from me, you beast." I shouldn't say that, but it is. I try not to. I try my hardest to have conversations. Where we go to Woolies down here in Preston, there's always homeless people sitting out the front, and there was one night it was really cold, and this lady was sitting out the front with her dog, and she just looked so sad. And I went in to buy some stuff, and I took out cash, and I noticed there was another guy sitting at the exit. So there's a different entrance and there's a different exit. You obviously come out from the self-checkout and you can just walk out one of the doors. And so I bought a couple of things. I bought a bag of chips and some snacks and stuff, some bottles of water, and I took out $20 cash. And I gave him most of the snacks. And then I went over to this lady and I said, "How you doing? How you doing, sweetheart? Are you okay?" And she's like, "Yeah." I said, "It's a cold night." I said, "You got somewhere to stay?" And she said, "Oh yeah, we're staying with a mate." Which I believe was a lie. She was just, trying to keep me at ease. Didn't want me to feel too bad about her. So I gave her $20. I said, she had a dog with her. I said, "You get something hot to eat, yeah?" And she thanked me, and I asked if she was with the guy down the road. I said, "I've left snacks with him. Here, you can have the rest of them." And I just gave them some money. And it was, it wasn't much, but it was something. And it was more than most. It was more than most people do. And I guess that's why I felt guilty for this lady on this train, because no one else acknowledged that she existed. I can't imagine how tough it would be living on the streets, and most of the time they get there through, poor decision making. Or I interviewed a guy back when I was doing a project. I went to uni for a little bit for film, and I was interviewing a guy, and he was telling us about how he just lost everything. His partner passed away, and his kids died. I think it was a car accident. And at the time, he'd either just been laid off work, or he just left his job, or he'd been injured and he couldn't work, and he was going through a court case for compo. And then his wife was the breadwinner at the time, and she died, and she didn't have any family, and his parents had both died, and he was an only child, so he didn't have any family, and I guess he didn't stay in contact. I don't know if he had aunties or uncles or anyone, but he just had nobody, and he couldn't make payments on his house, he couldn't do this stuff, and I guess just by the time everything was said and done, he was on the streets, and it was through no fault of his own, no choice. And it wasn't until he was on the streets that he started using drugs to cope with the life that he'd now found himself in. And he was telling me about where he could go to have showers. He said there was really good showers around the area, and he was living at the time. There was like a sort of a homeless community that lived under the train tracks, right next to the Melbourne Aquarium, the Sea Life Aquarium. The train tracks that came from Flinders Street. So there's a sort of between Flinders Street and the aquarium, there's like an underpass thing. They've now turned it into, it was a park before, but now they've turned it into more of a park. There was a man a couple of years ago, I can't remember, back in maybe 2011, 2012, he got stabbed down there. Some kid went and just stabbed one of the homeless people that was living down there, which is fucking completely deplorable. And they had a shrine, a tribute. No one could sleep on his column. And we were down there feeding these homeless people. I took, we had this project. I think we spent $80 or something. We took sausages and bread and bottles of water, like slabs of water down, and we were just we were feeding these people, and they didn't have to speak to us. We weren't filming them without permission. There was nothing like that. But we were just asking some that rocked up, hey, how'd you end up like this? What's going on? And some of them didn't even really speak. Some of them didn't want to socialize. But I think it's a testament to human nature, right? Humans need community. We're social creatures, and these people at the edge of life, the fringes of life, right? Like where we think we are. Like you could sit here and I complain, oh, my house is too hot, it's not properly insulated. Oh, my dishwasher didn't start working today, I have to get it repaired. I've only got X, Y, or Z in the fridge. Maybe I'll order food. And there is people out there that don't know where their next meal's coming from. And they live life with such intensity, and they have such what's the word? It would just be overstimulating. You'd have to sleep with one eye open because you don't know when the next person's going to come along and try and steal what little you have, and you don't know if that's going to be another homeless person, or you don't know if it's going to be, and then on top of that, it's cutthroat. There's a community of they join each other, they love each other, they hang out together. But if one of them makes more money than the other, if someone makes $70 in a day by sitting on the street begging, and someone else was out, washing windows with a car squeegee, they makes $50. There's that like, well, I'm gonna get a one up on you. I want to take what you've got. And some of them are respectful, whatever. But if drugs are involved, if other things are involved, I just think it's sad. And I think that we need to comment on that. We need to talk about how we just ignore them. We just ignore it. I see so many people. You stand on any corner in Melbourne where someone's begging, I guarantee in the span of 15 minutes, hundreds of people will walk past this homeless person without dropping a single coin, without stopping to read a sign, without acknowledging them, asking how their day's been, And you can see it. You can see the disgust in some people's faces. There's just no humanity left in people for less fortunate, misguided, I don't know. This took a heavy turn, but I guess it just makes me sad.